is going on with the FBI? They've committed hundreds of thousands of crimes. They're mistreating and ignoring their own whistleblowers that are trying to hold them to account. Is it time to disband the FBI, or would that amount to shutting down a key wing of the Democrat Party? Hello there, you 6.4 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining us on this voyage to truth and freedom. While all about you, they create terms like misinformation and disinformation. We know that what they want to do is censor and control, to centralize power, to prevent alternative narratives reaching you so that you can discern and decide for yourself what's true for you. Yes, of course, there are objective facts, but there are also corrupt, centralized organizations that have too much power and are willing to exploit that power. There's a long list. But today, we're talking about the FBI, who have literally committed hundreds of thousands of crimes. We're going to list those for you, not individually. That would take too bloody long. Also, when people try to blow the whistle on them, they shut that down. They ignore them and mistreat them. Are the FBI and the CIA protecting Americans and the people of the world, or are they protecting the interests of the powerful? Let's get into it.
What are your thoughts about what the activities are going on at the FBI?
The FBI has sort of evolved from what we expected to be, which is federal law enforcement. And after 9/11, when the National Security Branch was grown exponentially, the FBI has now essentially evolved into a domestic intelligence agency with a law enforcement capability, which is what I expressed in the hearing.
Okay, so the FBI has mutated into something other than what it was intended for at its inception. What you have to fundamentally ask yourself is, have many of our institutions evolved beyond the point where they are relevant? And in many cases, are they literally doing the opposite of what they were intended to do? Governments that don't represent the people, media that behaves more like propaganda, security agencies that make you insecure. Why does this happen? Is it possible that all these agencies and organizations have been co-opted by elite power? It appears on the basis of the testimony of these whistleblowers that the FBI isn't engaged in a process of upholding the law and the consensus achieved through American democracy in order to support the Republic, but is essentially supporting the interests of powerful groups. Let's have a look what else they've been doing and how it plays out.
And that's a problem because the nature of law enforcement investigations are linear. They have a start and an end. And the nature of intelligence operations are circular. They just gain more intelligence to gain more intelligence, and they never end.
That's interesting. What a brilliant piece of analysis. They ought to be like, right, there's this crime. Will you solve it? Like a little film. There's been a murder or a crime. Solve it. It's done now. But the process of gathering information is infinite. That's what we're learning now. We learned through the revelations of Snowden that they were stockpiling information, keeping it in case they needed it in the future. This practice still goes on. They're prolonging it. As our man there said, it began with 9/11. That legitimized it, but also the technology existed at that time. And as soon as that technology exists, there's a momentum and a motive to ensure that it's used by the powerful. We'll see the same thing with AI. Oh, look at this. Oh no, is it bad? Will children use this to write their essays? Oh, it's going to reduce the number of people in work. These are both problems of varying degrees, but the real problem will become what happens when these powers become co-opted by and utilized by the powerful.
What was the tipping point for you, Garrett, when you decided, though, hey, I need to talk about what's going on in the FBI?
I don't know if there was any firm tipping point that I can reach to, but it was more a summation of things that had been adding up and just over and over again saying, this doesn't seem right. This isn't what I was taught in constitutional law courses, or this isn't how you implement people's constitutional rights.
What Garrett O'Boyle, whistleblower, appears to be saying is that these institutions now have an inertia. They've made their choices. That's how they function. This is what they're going to do. They are not going to change. It's down to us to change individually and collectively in order to hold them to account. We must remain capable of discerning truth from fiction. We must remain bold, and like him, we must remember the oaths we've made to ourselves, to our gods, or to our systems of ideals, to our families, and to one another. We must believe it's possible to change the world. Once we become hypnotized and bound in bureaucracy, we're just sheep, cattle to them. For decades after the FBI was caught spying on Martin Luther King Jr. and abusing its powers for political ends, Democrats emphasized strong constraints on domestic spying and the importance of whistleblowers. Now Democrats are savaging these former public servants as threats to national security. Why is that? Well, presumably because their interests have changed and they're utilizing these deep state agencies in order to control the population and the narrative. But let's find out. At least 2 FBI whistleblowers are being persecuted for for concerns over how the January 6th protesters were treated. Now, it can be difficult to talk about the January 6th protests and some of the theories and ideas that surround it, but it seems clear that the FBI have targeted and surveilled protesters from January the 6th, but also George Floyd protesters. It seems that it doesn't matter what the issue is per se, Your Honor, but whether or not your protest is at odds with the interests of the powerful that they represent and operate on behalf of. I.e., what I'm saying, in case you haven't picked it up yet, is put aside your political differences and start working together, for God's sake. Steve Friend expressed concerns about the FBI's use of SWAT teams to arrest January 6th subjects. Within a month of these disclosures, the FBI removed Friend's security clearance and removed him from active duty. Garrett O'Boyle disclosed that the FBI pressured him to violate the law by opening domestic violent extremism investigations without sufficient basis. In addition to an indefinite unpaid suspension, the FBI initiated a campaign of humiliation and intimidation to punish and pressure me to resign, Friend testified. The FBI's campaign of personal destruction included leaking Friend's private medical information to a New York Times reporter. Before you start listening to that whistleblowing, you might want to know a thing or two about this guy's verrucas and his troubling athlete's foot. His feet are a goddamn mess. Yeah, but what about all this whistleblowing? Don't worry about what's up here. Worry about what's down there. FBI whistleblower Marcus Allen got in trouble with his superiors at the FBI, not for peddling conspiracy theories, but rather for sharing accurate news articles, including one apparently based on reporting by the New York Times. These guys, you can't trust them. They're sharing articles that are true. Well, actually, look, we wrote this one. Yeah, but, listen, did I tell you about his feet? They stink. Now, if we are going to continue to confront corruption of this nature, we are going to need some sponsors. We're obviously not going to get much support from the state. We're obviously going to be smeared and attacked. That's why there's a version of me coming right at you to suggest to you a product or service which I heartily endorse, probably give you a discount for, and will try to make funny. Stay with us. Is it me? Or does the future feel more insecure and uncertain? Wars, pandemics, lies, trickery. My cats keep having kittens. The last one's personal. For those who are in the United States, there is a way to secure your hard-earned nest egg. American Hartford Gold make it easy to protect your savings and retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. With one phone call, they can have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door, or inside a qualifying retirement account like your IRA or 401k. American Hartford Gold is the highest rated firm in the US with an A+ rating from the BBB and thousands of satisfied clients. Right now, they will give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first qualifying order. This offer is only for US customers. Call 866-505-8315. That's 866-505-8315, or simply text BRAND to 998899. Get up to $5,000 of silver and protect your future in this crazy, crazy world with some solid precious metals literally made in stars. Federal law enforcement had a far greater visibility into the assault on the Capitol, wrote the Times last fall, even as it was taking place than was previously known. Allen's intentions were plainly constructive. He had apparently forwarded an article to other FBI investigators to caution them that if they were looking at footage, they should be aware that there were informants in the crowd. Court documents indicate that there were at least 8 FBI informants, known as CHSs for Confidential Human Informants, in the Proud Boys, which was one of the groups that organised the January 6th protest. There is evidence that the FBI also had CHS in the Oath Keepers, another January the 6th activist group. That's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you think of how you're told the story of January the 6th, it's like, Donald Trump caused it, his rhetoric was incendiary, look at those tweets, it's terrible. And then when you see people, usually on the internet, alternative independent media like this, some of the people that we share this space with saying, there were FBI informants, and the mainstream media go, oh, that's ridiculous, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, this whistleblower is saying, no, there were FBI informants within those groups. Former FBI Supervisory Intelligence Analyst George Hill told the subcommittee that when the Boston office asked for the video footage from January the 6th protest, the Washington field office said they could not give access to the 11,000 hours of video footage available because there may be undercover officers, known as UCs, or CHSs, confidential human sources, on those videos whose identity we need to protect. And it wasn't just the FBI who had undercover informants and agents in the crowd. There were undercover agents and informants from other law enforcement agencies agencies, including the Washington, D.C. Metro Police, who were acting like Trump supporters. 4 more years! Donald Trump! I'm actually FBI. Oh, I'm actually the Washington, D.C. Does anyone here even like Donald Trump? I don't like him. Have you seen how orange he is? And his hands are a bit little. Indeed, there may have been hundreds of undercover government agents and informants, both local and federal, in the January 6th crowd. According to one January 6th witness, there were 100 to 200 Secret Service agents alone at the Capitol before and during the breach of police barriers. Hundreds? Hundreds? That doesn't seem like the world we're trying to create. Can we get to a point where we have a degree of objectivity around these matters rather than, okay, this story, before I get involved, is it my side or is it the other side? Well, this one is actually your side. Well, then it's a disgrace. It should be stopped. Oh, it's actually the other side. Oh, well, look, people have got to do what they've got to do. Of course there are informants. No one's got any objectivity or clarity or good faith in these conversations anymore. One court filing alleges that there are at least 20 FBI assets at the Capitol. Another court document from the Proud Boys trial suggests there are at least 40 undercover informants or agents doing surveillance among defendants on January the 6th. So this isn't just hearsay at this point because there are whistleblowers testifying in front of Congress. So it seems like there's the need for a conversation that people are unwilling to have, and even that suggests that particular outcomes are likely. In a motion to compel disclosure of all confidential human sources of Homeland Security, the defense alleges that in addition to the 8 confirmed FBI CHSs, the DC Metro Police had at least 13 undercover plainclothes agents, and there appear to have been some 19 CHSs on January the 6th belonging to an agency called Homeland Security Investigations. There's even agencies that are so secret we don't know that they exist, and they're there. Donald Trump! Donald Trump! You are under arrest. I'm arresting him. No, I'm arresting him. No, we're going to arrest him. I'm going to pretend to be his friend and then arrest him in a couple of months after I've got him to come up with a terrorist plot that I'm thinking about. One such individual is alleged to have been in the crowd screaming, "Stop the steal, stop the steal," and pushing the protesters toward the Capitol building. Boo! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Come on. Well, actually, I was here just for a peaceful protest. While I recognize that we have a variety of views, we're all Americans, and ultimately we could... Boo! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Come on, go in there. Here, I bought you a witch doctor's hat. Why don't you wear this? Here's some face paint. Oh, I don't know. Don't I look stupid? No, you've got a great body. And you're going to have plenty of time to work out in prison for 4 years. It is unsurprising that many agencies would send dozens of officers and informants to the Capitol in anticipation of 10,000 to 30,000 people attending a highly charged political rally. However, it is troubling that the public has not been given a full accounting of law enforcement officers' activities on January the 6th, given the fact that Democrats have likened the riot to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Well, I don't know. You can do your own jokes in the chat and the comments, baby. How like Pearl Harbor and 9/11 was it? What this is at very least is when people are going, oh, they're conspiracy theorists, maybe have a little closer look before dismissing that information. The real problem with Allen and Friend is that according to the FBI, they espoused an alternative narrative about the events at the US Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. So why did the FBI and Democrats attack the FBI whistleblowers? Perhaps because they are revealing, at a minimum, the FBI's failure to stop the riot and more maximally, its role in instigating it. Oh no, that's the key, isn't it? It could have been prevented because a lot of people said, oh, they were being ushered in, and it was instigated. It's starting to look like there is at least cause to examine the possibility that this event was made worse by operatives. You can, in a sense, inform your own opinion by looking at what has happened subsequently. Has it been used to spend more money creating a Capitol police force? Has it been used to introduce more surveillance and police laws? Has it been used to shut down conversation? If the answer to all of those questions is yes, and then additionally there were FBI operatives, there are FBI whistleblowers, then you have some questions. Whistleblowers Allen, Friend and O'Boyle all commented on the chilling effect of the FBI's retaliation. Too many in the FBI aren't willing to sacrifice the hard right over the easy wrong. And they don't use the phrase hard right in this context. They'll use that against you. I think we have to follow the hard right. Well, yeah, you see, this is the problem with these guys. They're all hard right. No, I'm incorrect. Too late. You're already in prison. They see what becomes of whistleblowers, O'Boyle said. This is by design. It creates an Orwellian atmosphere that silences opposition and discussion. Perhaps that's what's happening more broadly in our culture. Ask yourself the question, do you imagine that these powerful elites really care about what they would deem and term vulnerable people from a variety of backgrounds who, in my view, all have the right to freedom freedom of expression wherever they are on the political spectrum, whether it's traditional or progressive. Freedom means freedom, and it certainly means other people's freedom. Or are they interested in creating a climate of silence and control? Let me know in the chat. O'Boyle said that the FBI's action against him had rendered him and his family homeless, and that they could not access their personal effects, including clothing, because they were in FBI storage when he was suspended. But throughout the hearing, it was obvious that the Democrats were trying to distract and derail the subcommittee, refusing to engage with the whistleblowers' allegations that the FBI has intentionally exaggerated the threat of domestic terrorism through padded statistics and illegal investigations. Padded statistics, illegal investigations, prejudice and bias? That doesn't sound like the America that we've been living in for the last couple of years. What's more, the hearing made clear that the FBI is working with the Democrats, which underscores the agency's increasing partisanship. Democrat Stacey Plaskett, who savaged the FBI whistleblowers, previously threatened journalist Matt Taibbi with prison for supposedly lying to Congress under oath. Do you remember that sham kangaroo congressional hearing where Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, good men, good journalists, were subject to criticisms, accusations, and threatened eventually with jail time simply for presenting facts? It seems like there's certain information that people just don't want out there. The Durham report last week revealed that the FBI's Russia collusion investigation was cooked up by Hillary Clinton to denigrate Donald Trump by tying him to Russia as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server, and that despite knowing it was bogus, the FBI went ahead and launched the ill-fated Crossfire Hurricane investigation while dropping 4 probes into the Clinton Foundation. So some things they really investigate, other things they ignore. That's not objective justice, is it? This reveals an agenda. You can just sort of see the outline of the agenda from all of the actions and behaviours. On Friday, a FISA court order revealed that the FBI has been misusing a surveillance tool almost 300,000 times in 2020 to 2021, including doing 23,000 searches on January the 6th suspects and 20,000 searches on a congressional candidate's donors. This is what we continually say to you. As long as they have the ability to surveil you and look at your information, then the possibility exists that at some point you will do something that's at odds with the establishment. And given that there are no principles, and given that this is an ongoing circular problem, as our man there earlier described, it could come to you at some point. You know, when people say, if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide, what they should now say is, as long as you're willing to continually obey centralized authority, then you've got nothing to worry about. The FBI also refused to comply with a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee to hand over documents alleging that Joe Biden accepted bribes to change US policy while he was vice president. In the light of just 1 week of FBI shame, the latest Harvard-Harris poll showing deep public mistrust in the FBI comes as no surprise. Not only do 69% of voters believe the FBI violated its own standards in the Russia collusion probe, 70% are concerned the Bureau will interfere in future elections. So now you know, when people say deep state, this is what they're talking about. When they say deep state collusion, they're talking about stories like this. While the January 6th stuff is still under investigation based on the testimony of these whistleblowers and some of the information here about informants and assets in the crowd, it seems to me that a conversation is required before we march forward in the way that we did with the Russiagate stuff into making conclusions that might be convenient to a certain set of agenda. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments below? Share this video around. The algorithm will direct you towards mainstream media. That's why you need to subscribe, why you need to turn on the notification bell, why you need to support the work we do here every day to bring you these stories so that we together can awaken. If you enjoyed this video, watch either one of these. Remember, we're on Rumble every day. People say sometimes, why don't you have a show like The Daily Show? I do. It's on Rumble every single day. It is a daily show, actually. More important than any of that, though, is that you please stay free.